Well, hello there. I am Dr. Jen, and welcome back to My Life as a Landlord. This is the podcast where we pull back the curtain on the real, unfiltered world of real estate investing and all things awkward conversations, particularly around landlording, but whatever. We figure it out. Today, we have a truly special guest joining us, someone who knows a thing or two about making major life pivots and building serious wealth. Court Koshar transitioned from a successful medical practice, exiting straight into the trenches of real estate and private lending. He's seen it all from early property purchases to navigating the turbulent waters of 2008, like the rest of us. And now he's steering a massive private lending fund, which I honestly can't wait to jump into. Whether you're just renting out your first duplex or you're a seasoned investor looking to scale, I am so excited that Court is with us today. Hi, Court.
Well, hello, Jen. Thanks for having me. And you are very kind in your introduction. So I am excited to be here and just chat real estate, all things landlording, all things rentals. So it's good.
Very, very cool. Well, Court, I know you and I saw each other physically a couple times recently in Phoenix. We were at a conference, but even after that, I got this random text from you in the middle of the Maui floods, which I remember you saying that you were coming to Maui. Didn't even think another thing of it when our phones are going off and the floodings and everybody's shelter in place. And I get this random text for you going, Jen, do you happen to have a place for us? The roads are closed. We can't get to our hotel in the middle of the flooding. I felt so bad because I didn't have a place for you guys. You weathered the storm though.
We did. Hey, and I was just grateful I was going through, trust me, anyone I had that had a Hawaii phone number or address, I was like, who do I know in Hawaii that I could see? Luckily, we did make it to our hotel, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And we survived the flood without any damage. So, but it was an adventure for sure.
Yeah, anything on Maui seems to always be an adventure. There's always something going on that's crazy. So, well, Court, let's jump into this. I love it. When I first met you, everyone said, you've got to meet this guy. He's a former physician, but he's a real estate guy now. And I went, what? What? How did that happen?
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting life course for me too, for sure. I'm definitely a person that wears many hats, I would say.
I believe that. But you grew up and you said, I want to be a doctor, a medical doctor. And so you headed that direction, but then you stopped. Like how did you,
Uh-huh.
what made you stop?
Well, and I should be honest, I haven't stopped totally, but I've mostly stopped. So what
Okay.
the transition has looked like has been over the course of years. And if you don't care, I'll just tell my brief background story here real
Absolutely.
quick. Grew up in a small town in Wyoming, so poor, pretty poor, trailer park. Lived in a trailer park growing up, so it was an interesting childhood for sure. But I knew early on I wanted to be a doctor, or thought I did, I guess at least. And so that was kind of my way out of the town and my way out of the life I was, kind of raised in. And it worked, so I immediately went to med school. And but that being said, I also at the same time started investing in real estate at 18, just because I, thought, oh, if I'm going to have success and learn to invest, I should do it while I'm young and as I'm doing this. So I started buying rentals when I was 18, and went through college and med school at the same time, just kind of purchasing everywhere I lived. We moved around a lot because of the training programs that you go through. But as I did that, I bought rentals everywhere and actually started doing flips too. When I was in med school, actually, it was my first flip. So interestingly enough, most people would think there's no time in med school, which I was like probably crazy to try to do medical school. And I think I did three flips in med school. So it was chaotic and crazy. Luckily, met my wife along that path too, and she supported me and loved the idea of, just keeping adventures going. And so she was always there, helpful and willing. And anyway, we've built a great life. But along the way, I discovered that I didn't love medicine as much as I had thought I would love medicine, which was a little depressing, especially when you have, 100,000 plus of medical school debt that you have to pay back.
Right.
So that did motivate to some of our savings and just a lot of our life choices. But along the way, we had six kids and have started a bunch of different businesses and bought and sold businesses and done rentals, done Airbnbs, done some land. I don't know, a little bit of everything except for commercial. We have not done much commercial, but
Mm.
ended up finally in private money lending, which is what now we do in our little subsection of real estate. And from the medical side, have really scaled back. I did sell my practice about, I think it's been 8 years ago. And I work at Mayo Clinic in Phoenix now, a couple days a month. So I do still keep my toe in the water of medicine, but really just enough to keep myself active enough to be licensed. And I enjoy medical students and some teaching there, so it's a little bit of exposure that's fun, but doesn't tie my life down in any way, shape, or form, which I love.
Amazing. So at 18, you decided to buy your first property. Now, were you out of high school at 18 or were you
I was, yep,
transitioning?
I was in college, yep. So I was in college in Laramie, Wyoming, University of Wyoming, and I guess for me, I just thought, oh well, I'm going to move out of the dorms. I'd spent my first, year in the dorms, and so this was my second year, and I thought I should, I'm going to have to pay rent. So I should pay rent to myself and I should have my friends pay me rent. That was kind of my first thought. And it totally worked.
Oh, so
So,
you house hacked a bit. You rented out
yep,
rooms?
rented
Okay.
out rooms. And yep, all my roommates that had planned to go rent a place or, friends from just moved right in and it worked out great. And then my siblings lived there and I kept that house probably 10 or 15 years. So,
Oh my goodness. Now, your parents must have been looking at you going, "Oh my gosh, he's in medical school, he's buying houses, he's, house hacking," which what did they think about all this? They just go look at you and go, "You're nuts."
well, luckily my dad, but they were both supportive, which was good because
Oh, good.
they not to offend them at all, but they, were not very financially educated, but they were willing to support me, they just and so which I needed co-signers. So my dad co-signed on pretty
Yeah.
much everything. And
Aw.
so it's been good. And him and I bought, a bunch of properties together over the years. And now he's retired and I'm buying him out of pretty much everything, but it's been good. So it's worked well, and we've worked well together over the years.
That's amazing. That's so fun. Well, as you got into buying properties, it sounds like your first purchase worked for you worked for what you wanted to do in college and you rented out rooms and you probably lived there for free or for really cheap. And then, you bought a few more. What was your biggest rookie mistake looking back at that era?
Oh boy, no, that's a good question. I think that I didn't really understand early on the ideas of 1031s. That's probably my biggest
Mm.
mistake. Is that if I had been smarter, I would have consolidated. I would have sold as I left an area and consolidated it all into one area. Instead, I had properties in 10 states that I had to file 10 state tax returns, and
Oh yeah.
and that was chaos and no fun. So if I could go back, I think that would be my biggest knowledge: is learn what a 1031 is early on, and um, do sell the stuff that you're not in the market of. And although it worked out, it was fine, but I think it would have been better if I'd have moved the properties with me via
Okay.
1031.
Now, 1031 is US speak, and that's only a tool in the US. That's not in Canada. So for my Canadian listeners, will you please tell them what a 1031 is? What do you mean by that? What is that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does exist in Canada under another
Mm,
name, right? But I could be
okay.
wrong. But a 1031 in the US is where you um, basically maintain your equity in the property and just roll it to a new one when you sell. So it's a way to not pay tax essentially. So it defers, it doesn't prevent paying the tax, but it defers the paying of the tax. And for me, the other thing that was important with that is it deferred uh, depreciation recapture. So,
Mm,
which would have been a huge tax burden for us as
right.
we, over time, because you depreciate these properties over years and then um, sometimes, way more than you've actually, the value is not obviously not gone down. So it's kind of a bonus, right? Depreciation is not truly existent in real life and hopefully, ideally, but it is a tax issue. So anyway, some silly tax stuff, but I think Canada does have something similar, but I'm not educated enough to know for sure. But it does help defer taxes essentially.
Yeah, typically the Canadian government likes their money right at the sale. There's not a whole lot of deferment. There's a couple little things here and there, but in fact, when Mike and I because we're non-residents in Canada and we're US residents, but we're citizens of both countries. We had to be educated. Everyone kept saying, "Well, why don't you just roll it, do a 1031?" And we're like, "What is that?" And so we had to go to a couple courses and go, "What? There's this thing
Yeah.
where we don't have to pay capital gains because that's practically non-existent in Canada." And so, and I
Interesting.
know
Yeah.
around the rest of the world, there's similar tools. Like Australia has a couple different things, and in Europe, there's a couple different things. But by and large, it's a US
Best thing. Yeah. Interesting.
tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting. But yeah, I mean, at 18, 18, 19, 20 in your medical school years, here you are thinking about, lessons learned and that the 1031 exchange. I mean, that's just time was definitely on your side there, Court. Holy man, that's crazy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Interestingly, I just learned this week, I don't know if you know this, but there's something called the 721 exchange in the US, which is
What?
multifamily exchange. So
721 exchange. No, I
yeah,
didn't know that one. Okay.
I just learned this. So I could be wrong on the numbers, but I think that's what it is 721. So anyway, the US has a lot of opportunity for people that understand the tax code, which is so complex and convoluted that you have to know the right people or pay the right people to understand all this for sure.
Well, and even if you get it 5 minutes later, it can all change. That's what's the
Yeah.
crazy thing is that it's like this rolling vortex of things. And it's like, even if you understand all of it right now, wait 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. No,
Oh
it's
my
frustrating.
goodness. Oh,
So,
geez.
but
Well,
it's part of
so
life, right?
let's shift gears because I had the opportunity to meet some of your beautiful children. They are so much fun and
Oh,
just
thank you.
incredible. And you were telling me about a bakery or something like tell me the bakery story.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one. So it was called Sweeties, Sweeteez, and it was a really fun venture that we went down with some good friends of ours. We partnered, and it never made money. I'll tell you that. It was a bad investment if you want to talk about investments, but it was a great investment in education for my kids and opportunity for my kids. So it became a place where basically all my kids worked and my neighborhood kids worked and their friends worked. So we never really, like I said, made money at it, but it was a lot of fun. So we just did that for, I think it was about 6 or 7 years that it existed. Just neighborhood bakery in a commercial space, and started from the scratch, from the ground up, and learned that kind of the hard way that it's really hard to make money. And um, restaurant slash, which I knew that I'd worked in restaurants my whole life. Well, not my whole life, but as a teenager slash college, med school. But
What didn't
it
you do in
made
med
sense.
school?
Yeah, I was doing it all. Yeah. Hotel. I worked at a hotel. Yeah, I did a lot of stuff, but I don't think I slept. That's what I didn't do in med school was sleep, because I was so
Right.
busy. But it was good. But anyway, yeah. So I have kids. I have 6 kids. So their age range is 24 to 7. And so the 4 oldest teenagers have all got to experience working in the restaurant slash bakery space, which has been great for them. So
That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, now you and I met at a conference regarding syndication, so capital raising using private funds and SEC filings and all kinds of things like that. And hearing your story of where you started in the medical industry and then I was just so enamored going, how are you in this room? Like, like what? So
yeah.
tell us the decision of going, you know what? I've sold my practice. You found a great partner, and then now you're doing underwriting. Like it's just
Yeah.
like pivot, pivot, pivot the whole way, and then like tell us that.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. It's a crazy path for sure, but a good one. So what happened was, yeah, about 8 years ago, sold my practice to private equity, kind of against my desire because it was a fabulous practice with
Oh,
just great people. And we were a really outpatient based practice. So I had a great life that was, no weekends, no holidays, no call. It was like the dream life. We didn't make a ton of money in, relation to what other anesthesiologists made, but our lifestyle was so good that I was happy where we were. Anyway,
yeah.
long story short, I had a lot of older partners that were looking for their exit. And so private equity slash sale was their exit strategy that they really saw as viable. And a lot of people did at the time. It was kind of like this, healthcare scare of, oh, if we don't do it, we will be too small to negotiate with insurance companies and hospitals, and we're going to get eaten up either way. So this is better than at least we control the way we're eating up was kind of the thought process. So we sold to private equity. It was a miserable experience,
Mm.
as I expected. And maybe that was my frame of mind. I don't know. But what happened was we made some mistakes in the way we negotiate our contract. But our pay essentially went way, way down, which was already low. So it was just way too low to be sustainable. So I was quickly saw the writing on the wall that I had to get out of that practice. So plus we did, have an exit amount of money. So we had some capital that we were sitting on ourselves, which was nice. Luckily, my neighbor, his name's Damon Cusick, he's my business partner now, he was exiting from a trucking company. So totally unrelated, but he built a big trucking company that was hauled mail for the mail carriers in the US, which is kind of bizarre. But he was also exiting that, sold to private equity, and was also miserable with his private equity sale. So we were
Oh,
both in the same book, storybook of what do we do next? And we're both in our 40s. So too young to retire. And we just kind of got together. He had been a commercial real estate um, developer and commercial real estate agent back, in his young days too. So he'd been involved also from, I think he was 21 when he started his first real estate projects. So we both were young, stillish, youngish, I'll call it mid 40s, looking at what we'd do next. And we came together, chatted all kinds of investment ideas. We said, oh, because should we do franchises? We talked about Jack in the Box. We talked about furniture stores. We talked about all these crazy ideas, I still had the bakery at the time. So it was like, oh, could we grow the bakery? Could we franchise the bakery? What are some opportunities? But we settled on private money lending, which is interesting. And the reason we did was that luckily we had exposure. He had a previous business partner that had done it from the crash of 2008. He'd pivoted from commercial real estate to private lending in Oklahoma. And so he kind of was our mentor, and he came to us and said, hey, this is great. You guys should look at it. And then we came together and formed a great partnership. So Damon is pretty much our operator day to day that does most of the kind of loan servicing side of the business, broker and borrower side of the business. And then I'm the opposite side where I'm the capital raiser, trying to just continue to grow the business from capital, because in that business, we're always out of money, which is a good problem to have. But as soon as we get investor money or any money in, we've already got it pretty much pre-committed and lent back out immediately, which is awesome. So anyway, that's how we got to it. And some of the things we love about it, just to quickly share with the
yeah.
audience, is that it's couple things. One, you guys probably know us as hard money lenders, so it is expensive debt, but it just allows people to borrow with sometimes no money down. If you have experience, we'll typically lend with no money down, no money out of your pocket, including rehab costs for flippers, which is awesome. And that's primarily our market, is Midwest flippers. But the downside is, it is expensive. So you got to be fast and efficient. So, and for us to make money and to pay our investors money, which we pay our investors between 10 and 12% return on their money, just stable, steady income cash flow for them if they want, or they can compound it. But either way, it's a pretty high return to them. So therefore we have to charge a pretty high, which we typically charge 18% to our borrowers. And we do that with no points and pretty low fees. So that's why we're a lot of people are 12 and 2 kind of other hard money lenders, but we went with 18 and 0 points to kind of motivate people that if you're faster, we're actually cheaper, So if you can
Right.
get in and out of the deal fast, we're 1.5 points a month is what we tell people. So if you can be, in and out in 3 months, you've only paid us, what's that, 4.5%.
Right.
So anyway, so that's kind of the story, and it's just been amazing. We started about 3 years ago, and we started with just our own seed money, our own money from our private equity exits. And we've grown it from, just a couple million of our own to we're about 13 million AUM today, and we're probably going to be 25 million by the end of the year. So it's growing fast
Wow.
and furious. So
Now, who's your borrowers? Like, what's your favorite lender or favorite lending situation that you like to be in?
yeah, we have some now that are really good friends. They've become friends of ours, which is awesome.
Sure.
They're typically, and we're hesitant. We don't want to concentrate too much on a single borrower, so we will cut them off, even though
Mm,
we love them and would like to continue to give. We don't want the risk of having too much concentration of
sure.
borrowers. But that's who our favorite people are, ones that we can do 4 or 5 loans with at a time, and they are just efficient and good and have professional crews that come in, get the work done, have accurate budgets, get in, get out, are realistic in their valuations of what their rehab's going to cost and what the exit strategy ARV after repair value is going to be is accurate. That's really what we're looking for in a borrower is just that person that's and honesty too. We had one
Yeah.
this week that actually we get them all the time that are trying to scam us in some way, shape, or form. This guy was
Really?
trying to it's crazy. Yeah. What they'll do is they'll try to strip money out of these properties. So they'll sell to themselves. They'll do from one entity to another and they'll do it by inflating either budgets or paying off appraisers or just different crazy stuff that goes on in this world. So which is too bad that we have to scan out all of those for the good deals.
Mm.
So and the honest, accurate people that are actually doing what they intend to do.
Yeah.
So
Trust but verify, right? Yeah.
exactly. So
So, commercial lending, like what kind of deals do you lend on? No, you don't do multifamily though, right?
we'll do just up to 4 units. Yeah.
Four
No, we don't
units.
do
So base
multifamily. Yep. Basically
residential
single family.
stuff.
hmm
Okay.
Which we've pushed that a little bit. If the right deal would come along, we did have a commercial deal that we did underwrite and agree to lend on that didn't fall through. They didn't end up needing us, but we would go outside our box, but only if it really makes sense. We're pretty strict in following our niche. We'll do 65% ARV loan to value is our cap too. So you've got to have great deals. You got to be able to
Right.
source really good deals to make this make sense too, or bring cash to it, which some people are willing to do that, especially in first deals, and then they can roll.
Right,
But
right.
just depends on the person and what they're looking for. Some people can source these deals that I'm just shocked. They'll bring them to us that are 50% loan to value, and I'm like, how the heck are you finding these deals? I'm good for them, right? Like, I mean, I don't know how they get them, but trolling the obituaries or whatever.
Oh no. But they do distress property and you make all your money when you
Yeah.
buy it.
No,
So,
and the smart ones are doing that, right? Those the
yeah.
and a
Yeah.
system. They make systems of it. So most of ours are professional, or all of ours are professional. They're pros at what they do.
Yeah.
Um, so which is great, and they really are helping communities. I feel like because they're taking these old distressed properties and making them nice and newer again and getting them rented out. A lot of them do it with the BRRRR strategy where they'll buy, remodel. What's the
What are all
R's?
the
What are those
R's?
others? Yeah, I don't
I
know what the
know.
other R's are, but you guys know what I mean. Most of you listening
Renovate,
probably will know.
yeah, refinance. I
Refinance,
forget all the R's,
refinance,
but
yeah,
yeah, that one.
and then repeat. Repeat's the last step,
Repeat.
right? So yes.
Right. That's
So,
funny.
and that is a lot of them do that. They use that strategy where they're in, they're out of our money quickly. Use a DSCR, debt service coverage ratio refinance, and they're on to the next project. So
That's cool. Wonderful. Now, so I'm assuming, once you get a trusted relationship in any business, right? Not just real estate, but in any business, you just want to lean into that relationship. So I'm assuming you get a lot of repeat borrowers. I'm assuming.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
about 80%. And actually, it's funny. We just had
Wow.
this. Yeah, we had this discussion this week. Totally unrelated, but did you see? I don't know if you saw QVC is filing for bankruptcy.
No.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
my
so
gosh.
interesting. I
What?
was like, yeah, QVC is a giant direct
Like the home shopping
marketing
network.
TV. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the discussion was 98% of their buyers were repeat buyers. And so this was what the discussion was you don't want too much because that means you're not innovating or expanding or growing, right?
Right.
Because and essentially what happened was they were only selling to the same people over and over again and they were all dying. So
Yeah, exactly. They're aging out. They're
yes.
aging out.
So there's just no
Exactly.
growth there. And it's silly. They had the opportunity. They could have done so much. There's all these TikTok shops and other, innovative new ways to buy stuff that they could have implemented and utilized, but they just stuck with their old system.
Yeah.
So we said our goal is, probably 70 to 80% is our goal target repeat buyers that we want to stick with. So that way we know we're continuing to grow and expand,
Right.
but keeping our base happy too, which,
Well, of
we, like I
course.
said, we love our borrowers. Most of them love us for, once you get to know the system, and we're just easy, honest, quick. And that's what they really want is people that can,
Yeah.
be quick to be sure a deal can be done. And usually we're faster than, we're ready as fast as a title company can be ready. So
Fair enough. So you're looking for new borrowers, kind of, but you're really looking
always. Yeah.
for investors as well, right? Because you're
Yep.
you're looking for new capital to deploy, and you're saying 25 million. basically by the end of the year, but I thought you were on like a 3-year trajectory, 50 million. It sounds like you're going faster.
Well, like I said, we have to be careful, that we don't go too fast because of
Right.
the risk of that. We don't want to ever poorly underwrite a loan. So that's kind of the key
Yeah.
success, is that we underwrite the property way more than we underwrite the borrower. So we don't even check credit. We don't pull credit.
Mhm.
We're strictly just underwriting the property. And our mindset is, if this deal fails, can we flip this property? Because we've done it before and we have, the ability to do that. We just want to be sure any property that we loan on, we could actually flip ourselves if need be. That being said, we foreclosed probably, I think three. We're approaching maybe our fourth that we're getting ready to foreclose on over those 3 years. So lower
Mhm.
than the national, mortgage industry standard for even just regular industry standard for foreclosure rates, which we pride ourselves in because that means we're underwriting them well. You know, the properties are stable and steady, and the borrowers are for the most part responsible and paying their bills
Yeah.
and moving on to the next project. So
That's cool. That's really cool. Now, you've done some really interesting marketing things along the way. And I know even the conference that we went to with Marcin Droz M1, he was talking about doing a recurring webinar that would then feed your funnel and trying to find more investors and things like that. So you can do more buying, syndication, and things like that. And you've done some of that marketing kind of stuff. Like, tell us kind of some of the things that you've tried.
yeah, we are pretty broad in our base of marketing, and like you mentioned, our marketing is keyly now to investors because that's really what we're out of money way more than we're looking for loans. So, and what that looks like is typically accredited now. We were a 506B, which this is a U.S. Jargon of securities law here, but we were a 506B that could not market and advertise beyond you had to have a pre-existing relationship for our first couple of years. We
Sure.
just recently started our second fund, which now we've retitled ourselves Fund Two, where we're a 506C and we can legally go out and market and share
Crowdsource.
this with the world. So hallelujah. But we do need now accredited investors. So you got to be the 200,000 or $1 million in net worth in the U.S. And we do all kinds of different things for marketing. So we do it from old school systems that are just calling people, dinners, lunches. We yesterday we packed in, I think, 2.5 lunches essentially to try to get to different investors. So it's whatever we can do to to get with people and friends that are interested in investing. From the digital side, like you mentioned, webinars is kind of new to us. I've done that in the past with other businesses too. I don't love them, to be honest. Martian seems to think it works really well, so we'll see. We're willing to trust him as the expert and see if we can make it work.
Why don't you love
Um,
them? Why don't you love webinars?
I don't know. It's a good question. I think it's to me the stress of trying to get people to enroll,
Mm,
marketing this thing that's kind of nebulous in some ways. To we try to do ours mostly educational. Um,
yeah.
I don't know. It's less authentic to me than just like this. Like I'd much rather have a conversation with you than a webinar where I feel like I'm lecturing people, but it's fine. We'll see. It may work well. The big thing now that they're really pushing to is AI, use, which you and I have
Oh,
kind of talked
yeah.
about a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, Paid ads, we haven't done any paid ads yet. We're just preparing to do that. We'll see how that works too. It'll be interesting to see. I've done paid ads, in other businesses that have worked, so I know it can work. Um, it's interesting. My avatar, and your avatar is basically who you're kind of targeting your marketing at, is a physician typically because I can relate to them.
Right.
Um, and they're high net worth. So I know they fit that, they can check that box that they're accredited investors. So that kind of, helps two ways. Um, but I wonder about that. I'm like, what kind of ads are physicians watching that they're actually willing to click on and come and spend a half hour or an hour to hear about an investment of somebody they don't know? So that's kind of the thing for me that I'm not sure the
Kind of a
juice will be
tough
worth the
sell, isn't it?
squeeze. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's so many people that I think have had bad experiences
Yeah.
with people they didn't know that I worry about that for them, and again, my advice to anyone who's investing in anything is, know your operator because if you don't know your operator and you can't trust your operator, no matter what the deal is, no matter how good or bad it looks on paper, run away would be my advice. Like, or spend the time, the due diligence to really get to know them. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my tip for anybody that's looking to invest in anything is just know the operator well. So,
It's really interesting because you just said in the previous conversation that you don't even check credit on your borrower. You're underwriting the property. But when you're talking about the investor, it's like the optics looking at you. It's really interesting on sort of I guess I want to say credibility, but that's not what I mean. But it's like you're just looking at each avatar differently. It's really, really
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, it's totally, again, it all does fall back to the operator because, we are dependent on that operator. And I guess we build that trust and, or whatever, what was the word you used? I can't think, but it's true. Like you build that over time.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll repeat borrow to people that, have performed and done well as a good
Yeah.
operator. But again, we'll take the risk on a property, for the first time, as long as it pencils and the deal does work. But I guess that's because we could trust ourselves as operators if they fail. So
Yeah, isn't that interesting how it all falls back to you and Damon? And it's
yep,
just interesting to me because your background, growing up in a small town in Wyoming where you really didn't have a whole lot of business acumen, deciding you're going to go to medical school, and here you guys are legit underwriting your own deals. Like it's you guys, like not a
yep,
big institutional bank, it's you, which
yep.
I mean, it doesn't get more human than that to me. I think
Yeah.
that's just
No,
incredible.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we do. And I will say, I shouldn't say that we don't, there are exceptions, right? We will underwrite more heavily, especially DSCR. Like if you
Yeah.
are refinancing, then we're basically, going to have a bank or we're going to be brokering that out. And there is someone that is going to run your credit. And, so you do. And we tell people this from the beginning, too. We're like, hey, if you've got a 400 credit, you're going to be stuck with this loan. So this is not a good idea for you,
Right. Right.
but, or if, you're at 550 and you think you're going to, some medical bill is going to clear next month, then fine, you're going to jump up to 650 and you're going to be able to get this refinanced. So it's different
Right.
for everybody. But, but it is interesting for sure, for sure, for sure. But I don't
That's
know for
incredible.
you, how do you look at when you're looking at other outside investments? What would you say or choose to do your due diligence?
I look at I always look at credibility of who am I
Yeah.
talking to? How long is not just the organization been around, but who is the talent that's behind it?
Yeah.
And their credibility. I mean, like Mike's been building homes for 45 plus years. And, now we've done condos in Maui and I'm literally sitting outside our RV park that's about to be operational. I've never done an RV park. However, I know housing and I know
Yeah.
British Columbia, which is where this RV park is. And as a result, I'm smart enough to go, you know what? Why don't I join an association who knows RV parks and let them educate me more? And that's exactly what we've done. And
Yeah.
so it's not as scary when it's like, you know what? I go back to my training and my skill set and go, you know what? I know I can talk to experts. I will trust the experts to be the experts. And then what's my systems? What's my training? I've just posted some job descriptions looking for park. I'll call him a park manager, but it's really a park administrator. But then I'm also on the flip side going to create a software that is basically turnkey. Like when someone makes a bid or makes a reservation at our RV park, I literally want them to go, I want this spot, I want this cabin, literally all the way through the payment, all the tax collections, because depending on what it is, you have to pay all these different tax things, right? Because it's basically a hotel room, essentially.
Yep.
And then all the way to the end, and they get an email that says, "Wonderful, welcome. Go to slip 26."
Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't even have to you
Easy.
don't even have to
Easy.
check in. Or here's the
Yeah.
code on the lockbox of cabin 9.
Yeah. No, it's
See you in the
awesome.
morning, right?
So that is back to AI, right? Like, well, two
Yes.
things. Yeah. One thing you said was, you know, I think learning. So that's what I took from what you just mentioned is that,
Sure.
any operator should love to learn and be willing to
Oh
learn.
yeah.
And, and that's one thing I'm grateful for from medical school and medicine. Even though, like I said, I didn't love, practicing medicine, it taught me how to learn and to be a lifelong learner, which I think is key. And investing in education, right? Like that's why I'm so happy to have met you through, we spent a lot of money to be at that meeting, right? In that
So
room.
did
But
we.
yeah, it's worth it, I think, because of things like this and, and just education you do get on what's happening in the industry and what's changing and, who's at the forefront of it. And so it's all interesting. And then from AI from marketing, we didn't get into that much, but I'm
Yeah.
working on that personally. I think it's amazing. Agentic, ability now to just go and do stuff like we're assigning a marketing AI agent and a essentially investor processing AI agent. And, we're just working through trying to get like 5 or 6 AI agents that are going to just continue to help scale our business without more people. So, people
Right.
are key and you do need key people in certain roles, but there's a lot of stuff that's so repetitive that, and they don't enjoy that either. People don't enjoy,
No.
putting in the same stupid checkbox over and over again. So if it can be outsourced to AI, then we can just continue to grow the business without hiring any more people, which is amazing and awesome. So
Yeah, I know you and I've talked about AI bots. Like, have we created a bot? And, there's so many people who think that AI is ChatGPT when in fact ChatGPT is only one tool using AI. And then this whole notion of an AI bot, like what is an AI bot? I know what it is, but maybe the listeners
yeah,
don't.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be different for everybody, and I'm not like a total expert on this either because I'm learning as you're learning, as we're
Yeah.
all learning as fast as we can. But it really would be, and so for me, the worry with AI is security, right? Because we have so
Mhm.
much information on our
Right.
investors and our borrowers. We've got their social security numbers, we've got their driver's licenses, we've got their addresses, all that information that could be hacked and then could be used for fraud.
Right.
So that's a big worry for us is the compliance on the fraud side. So the idea from behind a bot would be that you create something that's really truly external from your system in some ways. So it doesn't have access and it's got a firewall of sense, right? That it can't get into those personal private informations.
Yeah.
But then can still know enough about your company. So this is fine line, right? Like you don't want to give it too much access or information, but enough that it can do well and understand. And so for us, it's going to be, we're setting up these separate computers that are going to be, separate system from our teams and our, in that has all the data. Even though we have some security too, where we don't share, data with even some of our lower level employees, right? They don't have access. So it's kind of already there, but
Hmm.
it's a similar structure that we're trying to implement with computers, I guess, right? That are so agentic is the word I would use. That then these computers that are bots that are become, your marketing manager, right? So this bot really just instead of hiring, somebody in the US or somebody overseas that's a VA or whatever, it's really just a computer that's going to do it. And then ideally, you're going to either have someone that you hire that manages that, or you are personally going to go and, chat and deal with it. So it's amazing. It's interesting.
It's wild and it changes every day. It's really incredible. It's like
One thing
having,
too,
yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was gonna say it's expensive too. Like that's the other thing.
Yes, it
Like
is.
um, I was talking to a guy. He's a flipper in Alabama and Florida, so the Panhandle, Panama City region. And I think he was spending, I want to say 2 grand a month, maybe
Woo!
2,500 a month.
Jeez.
Yeah, on because he had like 6 different. He's paying the maximum on Chat GPT, and he's paying the maximum on Claude, and he's paying not the maximum because you can even you can go
Yeah,
enterprise
you
level
can
where
go
you're
more.
spending tons, but
Yeah,
large amounts of data and tokens they call them, right? So
yeah,
um, that you're paying for to develop software basically and
yeah.
systems but it's all about it's the same. It's just being efficient and good at systems. So
We use Manus quite a lot. We're up
man,
to I
that's
think
no.
$200 a month on Manus, and Mike and I are constantly throwing in things in Manus, going, educate us all about like this RV park. There's a perfect example. I threw in Manus yesterday saying, based on the other campground and lodging in
in the
my
area.
area because I'm in a remote area that's
Yeah.
accessible only by fair or by air or by two ferries in British Columbia, north of Vancouver. And so I said, in this area, what should my RV pads be priced at? Right? Daily,
Mhm.
weekly, monthly, up to 180 days, and it's a hard stop and they have to depart the property and potentially they could come back. It's like, okay, how do I do that? And then I have furnished cabins. And I did the same thing. In the furnished cabins,
Yeah.
they said market rate should be around $3,000 a month. And I was like, how, and these are, imported expandable tiny homes that we are going to outfit that are going to be super cute in British Columbia factory fashion, bears and elk and fish and
Yeah.
moose and
But
all the
you
things that we're
probably
going to.
thought 1,000 or 1,500 a month, right?
That's
So
exactly what we thought. We were thinking more like
yeah.
1,200 and everybody kept saying
Yeah.
this is not a long-term rental, which is
Yeah.
my world. They
Yeah.
said you're not creating a tenancy. This is a hotel room.
Yeah.
So what is your hotel room? Does your local hotel room, can you get a hotel room for $1,000 a night or $100 a night? And I went, probably not, quite
Right. Right.
frankly. Probably more
Yeah.
like 150 or even 200 a night. Well, times that times 30. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like
And
seriously,
it's
I'm
the
having
experience
heartache.
too. Yeah. Yeah. But you got to do that to be competitive in market, in the market. So
Prices
it's,
perceive value, but it's also
yeah.
like, at what point do I feel like I'm gouging? We're also just starting. So there's a whole strategy to
Yeah.
all this. I don't think I'm going to start them at 3,000 though, Court. I think I'm going to start them like 2,400 for this summer. And then
Yeah.
October when it shifts into winter mode. And then I'm really excited for next summer when the landscaping is in. There's going to be more,
Yeah.
you know,
And you'll have, some feedback and you'll have some
yeah,
ratings and, you'll be better. So that makes
that's
sense to
fine.
me.
And
Yeah.
all in all, we try to be good humans. Like for example,
Right.
we had the fire chief come out, and it's a volunteer fire group in our area here because we're in the regional district. It's rural, and we said, hey, we've installed a well here that we've actually put a fill valve for your fire trucks. Like if you need water, come and fill
Yeah.
up. And actually, even today, I can look outside the window. They're actually moving where it's going to go, so we can actually put a monument in for the fire truck. And they were saying, well, what's the goal of you guys being of us coming today? Because I lovingly pushed them to come here. And I said, I want you to be familiar with our layout. I want you to know where our buildings are. I want you to know how the lots and the pads and the cabins are. I want you to know where we are. But I also want you to know that if something is happening and you need to fill your truck, that you can come here, right? And it might only happen once a season. It may, even if it happened once a month, and they're saying, well, that's going to cost you money. And I said, yeah, but I also might save somebody's home,
Yeah. Absolutely.
right? And literally across the street, 2 or 3 years ago, before we bought this parcel, a lady's house burned down literally right on the corner. And if we'd have been here with our fill valve, there's a better chance her
Right.
house would have been saved. Not 100%, because again, it's volunteer. But
Yeah.
this is where part of me being, you know what, I still want to be a good human. And so this is
Absolutely.
where I go, should I put my cabins at 3,000 a month, even though that's market rate? It's like, at
Yeah.
what point do you cross the good human line?
Yeah. Well, and some of that's paper too. You got to look at your budget and your business and say,
Of
what
course.
can I sustain and what does make sense and what can I afford to grow with, right? So,
Right. Well, and sometimes you just got to start. I mean,
yep.
we're sitting here and I know this is going to air at the end of June, and I'm just looking at this. By the time this airs, we are very likely going to be completely full here. And we were actually able to add three more RV pads because I just said, hey, electrical loading, I'm asking the question, I'm an engineer, asking the
Right.
question, going, hey, electrician, do we have room? Can I sneak three more in here? Like, is that even possible? And, oh yeah, 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 we can do it. And then of course you got to check the septic loading. So then I emailed the engineer. I said, hey, we have room and we have capacity in the power.
Space.
Right. And he goes, yeah, you can. And I went, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, because then I go, there is a value to each pad in the appraisal. And so I'm like, that
Absolutely.
appraisal just went up because I have to refinance once we get leased up, once we get all this, going,
Yep.
I have to do a takeout loan from the construction. And so in my mind, everything is about that conversion. It's the same thing. It's just a matter
It
of what's
is.
the business, whether you're talking about
Yep.
Jack in the Box or a bakery or an RV park, it's the same thing.
Yep. It's all just about the numbers ultimately and the people
Yeah.
too, right? So
And the
numbers and
people.
people. Yep.
That's
So
right. That's right. Well, I am guessing you have some amazing people on your team, like Damon. Yes, and more people.
absolutely. We do. Yep. We actually
Yeah.
just hired a guy. His name's Nick Jackson he came from a multifamily fund.
No.
So, and he came over to help with investor relations and to help us, grow investors, which is awesome. So we're continuing to grow our team all the time. And it's just amazing. Yeah. The things you can do with, hard work, dedication, optimism, and just, AI now.
Yeah. Well, and you know what AI really helps with is AI helps articulate what details we need to have in our systems. And that's
Yeah.
where it's like, hey, you really need to make sure that in your license to occupy, like at the RV park here, that you have to actually leave the property for 72 hours. Like that's got to be in the rules. And I called the association. I was like, why? But I would have never thought to ask that if
Right.
Manus hadn't told me to do
Yes.
that. And so
Yeah.
it really kind of twists your thinking.
Yeah. No, it's amazing.
No,
Interesting.
it's so cool. Well, Court, as we're coming to the end of this, I'm just curious if you had one piece of advice for somebody exiting high school, they're just starting some kind of a career of some way, maybe they're heading to school or whatever, and they're thinking about real estate, they're thinking about how scary this all stuff sounds. What piece of advice would you give them?
Oh, that's a great question. So I have, kids in college and high school, so this is very applicable. The way
Yeah.
I give them advice, one is that, you've got to have some sort of passion about what you're going to do, so
Mhm.
it's got to be something you enjoy or like in some way, shape, or form. And maybe you don't love all of it, which there's nothing you're going to love all of, right? But find something that does interest you and that excites you at least a little bit. That would be my first piece of advice. And then the second piece is the probably education side, where you just can, be willing to invest in yourself and in your learning and don't ever stop that. And I think if you do that, it's scary at first, but then it becomes routine. There's lots of things in life that we've done that you can look back and say, oh, I was so scared of that. And then once I did it, I'm like, oh, that's a piece of cake, right? Like public speaking or whatever it is, for you that seems scary at first, usually then becomes easy and routine if you do it enough and practice at it and, work hard at it. So thank you for having me and for spending this time. This was great.
Absolutely. What a great conversation. And I've just enjoyed every interaction that we've had. And I know there's going to be more coming up soon because there is yet another conference in Phoenix coming up, which is cool. I
Yeah,
thought
I
it
was
was
gonna
going
say,
to
are
be
you
in
coming?
Banff. Yeah, no,
Oh
I thought it was
yeah.
going to be in Banff, and then just learning a little bit more about what's going on, and that many Americans don't have a passport, like, and so they can't travel to Canada. And I'm like, okay,
Oh, that's boo.
that doesn't make sense to me. So if you're
Although
an
I hope
American listening to this, get a passport,
get a
please.
passport. Yeah, exactly. Um, I I don't know if we're gonna make it though. Actually, I have another commitment with my kids, so I'm hoping I
Oh.
make it for part of it, but hopefully we catch you.
Oh,
So
fair enough. Fair enough. Well, Court, thanks for hanging out with us today and imparting all kinds of wisdom and funny stories about, Jack in the Box and bakery and 18% and all kinds of things. But any parting thoughts?
No, for us, it would just be, definitely we are looking for investors. If anybody is on here, we would love to chat with you, especially if you're accredited, and are happy to allow you to get to know us so you could trust us. And then from the other side, people looking to flip, we're happy to chat too. And we really do consider ourselves mentors too, that we, basically
Oh,
are partnering with you on this deal. So we'll spend time and walk you through, the way we underwrite it and the way you should underwrite it too, if you're, going to become a good flipper that continues to grow a business. So we'd love
love
to
it.
chat.
Love it. Okay, I got one final question.
Yeah.
1912 Capital is the name of your company. Why is that?
So we picked that because we're based in Arizona, even though we lend in the Midwest. So I should have clarified that a little bit. We lend typically Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, Ohio, those kind of Midwest states. But we are based in Phoenix, Arizona, which is where Damon and I live. And 1912 is the year Arizona became a state. So that was
Oh,
what motivated it. The other motivation was we wanted to be at the front of like an alphabetical thing. And if you put a number first, you're the first. So that was kind of our other thought is like, let's call ourselves a number. So it was kind of silly, but we like it.
strategy.
It's been fun.
Always
Yeah.
strategizing.
Yes, exactly. So, but 1912 capital, yes, the year Arizona became a state. So,
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thanks for being here, Court. Super enjoyed having you.
yeah, thanks, Jen.